HP held a partner event, Amplify, last week, and some of our colleagues from the 6.5 Media were there to see how their company is advancing PCs and printers, aligning the connective tissue of AI to enhance hybrid work, and a lot of other things. The coverage highlighted collaboration between Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, and Intel, and how HP is positioned to compete in the evolving market. Of course, there was also a lot of talk about the approaching AI PC wave, though we anticipate very fierce competition in the market, with Apple as kind of that dark horse sitting out there since we don't exactly know what they're going to be doing. Stephen, you've talked about the AI PC before on the rundown. What's your take on HP's client compute message coming out of Amplify?
I think this is really key. But first, let me make it clear that we're talking about HP, not HPE. In case you forgot, HP, Hewlett Packard, split into two companies. One of them is focused on the enterprise. That's HP Enterprise, Hewlett Packard Enterprise. The other company is HP, which is, I guess, the HP that you'd get at Staples, basically. It's PCs, it's printers, it's telecom, it's collaboration, it's software, it's all sorts of things on the client side. So HP Amplify is their partner conference where they debuted a lot of their messaging, which is an important aspect here, as well as products for their partners. And of course, HP is a very, very powerful company on the client space. And of course, this is a company focused on AI PCs. So certainly a lot of people like to joke about HP being focused on printers and selling printers as a service and all that. And there was a lot of talk about that. And, you know, the pros and cons of that are, well, pretty obvious. I mean, it's the same pros and cons of sort of everything as a service. You know, I can understand why people object to having a printer as a service, but I can also understand why people would want a printer as a service, because then they don't have to worry about it. And printers are kind of a hassle normally, so it takes a lot of that away. But let's zoom in here on the AI PC, because to me, that was a huge takeaway. As we've talked about before, most of the PC makers in the market are looking at ways of basically getting on board with the AI wave, because the software vendors, principally companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon, are building AI-enabled applications that end users are craving. Apple is a dark horse in this race as well, since Apple makes a vertically integrated PC that goes all the way from literally processor design up to end user software. Microsoft is probably the main competitor here, and the linchpin on which the success of the AI PC stands. Because essentially, if Microsoft can develop a AI-enabled version of Windows that really brings valuable technologies right down to the client device, then the client devices are going to need to bring some serious hardware to back that up. And that's going to make every company in the industry smile, from vendors like HP and Dell to chip makers like Intel and AMD and Qualcomm, and supporting component makers like companies like Samsung and SK and Micron and Solidigm and all the rest of them. So essentially, that's what was on display at HP Amplify. Number one, the fact that they have developed PCs and essentially AI workstations that can really do quite a lot of local processing, which reduces costs. You want to gripe about everything as a service, gripe about your cloud service bill if you're paying for OpenAI and things like that. Brings that right down, processing locally, basically, you know, for free as a CapEx on your local machine. They demonstrated this in partnership with basically all the companies that I've just mentioned, and they've shown that you absolutely can do AI processing on an HP end user client device. But more importantly, they stood up there on stage with basically everyone in the industry to say, yes, we're really doing that. And by that, I mean, you know, they stood on stage with partners from Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, Intel. And it's really amazing to see those kind of people sharing the stage with a company like HP, and all in sync, all banging the same drum, that the AI PC is real. They're going to deliver it on a hardware front. They're going to deliver it on a software front. They're going to make this thing happen. And this, I think, is really transformative for our industry. I know there's a lot of concern about all of this AI processing being done in the cloud, and I think that there's good reason for that. as I said, for one thing, the operational expense of that can surprise businesses, especially if they've got paid subscriptions. They could end up with another cost center that they're not prepared for. The other thing, of course, is that a lot of businesses are leveraging AI technology, and they'd rather have the benefits of Edge that we've talked about, for example, at Edge Field Day and on our Utilizing Tech podcast, having local processing, which reduces latency of processing. Um, it allows you to process when devices are disconnected and so on. That's really important for edge environments like retail and industry, but it's even important for just regular people on the go. You know, you've got your HP laptop, you open it up in the coffee shop, and you're able to do the things you want to do in Windows without having to be connected to the internet. That, I think, is going to be a very powerful argument in favor of these AI PCs. Now, again, I have to say that Apple is really a dark horse here because we don't really know what Apple's doing. But one thing we do know is that Apple has put a lot more AI processing in their hardware. And I think that a lot of us are waiting to see where that comes to software. So we know what Microsoft and Intel and AMD and NVIDIA are doing for the AI PC. We don't really know what Apple's going to do, and we'll see. I suspect, though, and I don't think that this is a dangerous suspicion, that Apple is going to lean heavily into the AI PC era anyway. And that's essentially going to benefit everybody because not everybody's going to use Macs. And the people that don't use Macs are going to want to have the same AI enabled features that Apple's going to probably deliver soon. And that's going to give companies like HP and Dell and Lenovo and so many others a huge boost in terms of sales. I think we're going to see a massive wave of refresh of client side hardware to support this AI PC vision that we heard about at HP Amplify.